This is called my $1 million script. You're about to see why. The PA has called the seller and filled out the property information sheet. Now you pick up the phone and you're going to make this closing call, as we call it. It starts off with, "Hi, John, this is Ron, calling about the house you discussed with my assistant yesterday. You got a minute?" "Oh, yeah." "Well, listen, you indicated, I have indication here on the sheet that you might be interested in if I make your payment until we can get you paid off in the future," or something to that degree, depending on what the property information sheet says. And John says, "Well, yeah, we did discuss that, but I'm going to need more information on it." "Okay. Well, John, I only have 3 questions for you to determine whether we can do business or not. And the first one would be, if we did agree upon the rest of the terms, what's the least you could take for the house?" And notice it says, "Shut up, wait for answer." John will give you an answer. That answer will almost always be below the asking price that the VA got on the sheet. And then you're going to say, "Is that the best you can do?" My friends, those are the most powerful 7 words for getting a good deal in the English language right there. Is that the best you can do should be part of your conversation, no matter what you're negotiating, buying or selling, or with whom or on what. Is that the best you can do? Shut up, watch what happens. So now you've got the price that you low as you're going to get it on this conversation. Next question. We usually buy with nothing down, okay? There's only 2 things John can say. You can say okay, which means you shut up and move on because you just got a nothing down deal, and you will be shocked how many people will say okay. If John said, "Oh, I got to have a down payment," what is the least you could take down? And we work it from there. That question will determine whether we want to go to the house or not, because if he wants a great big old down payment, there's no reason to go because we can't give it to him. You see, our front end profit is made from the difference between what we give John and what we get from our tenant buyer. And I don't know about you, but I'm not a nonprofit organization on purpose. So if I'm dealing with a $300,000 house and old John wants $50,000 down, I got no reason to go to his house because there's no way I'm going to buy it. But what if I can get John down to 10,000 or 0? Prefer 0. Then I'm going to go to the house. Even if he says 20,000, I'm still going to go to the house because I'm sure I'm going to get him down even further once we become face to face. I think you're getting the point that the way you ask the questions will determine whether you make the trip or not. So you've got to get good at mastering this closing call. Last question is, well, let's say it's got a loan on it. Your question would be, "Well, I assume you're okay if I just make your payments until I pay you in full." If he says yes, he just gave you a long-term deal because he just agreed that you can make his payment until his loan is paid off. That could be 20 years from now. If it's free and clear, you're going to ask, what's the least you could take per month? And by the way, if it's free and clear, you can get some really low payments because the seller has no underlying payment. And that's your chance to get these great big monthly spreads on these houses when I can get those payments way down. When I'm taking over somebody's debt, I don't have a choice. The payment is already there and I can't change it. This is what I call $1 million script for a reason, because it is worth $1 million. These are the 3 questions that have to be asked before you go to the house. You either go after this or you don't. Now, if we get into this call and John says, "I don't want terms, I really didn't say that," or "I didn't mean it," or whatever, then we have another script called the no script, which gives John all the reasons why he might want to consider changing his mind and throws out all the benefits at him, and then gives him a chance to change his mind. And then if he changes his mind at the bottom of the script, it comes right back to these 3 questions before we'll go to the house. If we don't like the answer to these 3 questions, we don't go. If we do, we go. So the whole goal is to make an appointment, which I also have a script for as well. Okay. On the appointment script, we want to make sure John's not the only owner and the owners are present. And the last question is, "John, if I come out to your house and I like what I see and we agree upon the terms, are you ready to sell me your house today and get some paperwork done while I'm there?" You know, it took me 20 years to figure out the answer to that question. I learned pre-screening is a whole lot better than paying for gas. Saves an awful lot of time and energy and grief by simply asking the questions I want to know the answer before I leave my desk and go to somebody's house. Now, before I go any further, let me ask you, who made whom an offer? I just asked questions. They're right in front of you. John answered them. John made me an offer. John told me the price. He told me the down and he told me the monthly. I just asked the questions. And if I didn't like his answers, I asked other questions to get to the bottom line. We always answer questions with questions. So what you got to do is really just two things. You've got to generate leads and you've got to master this call. Now think about it. Systemized. The front end call was made by the VA. Generating the leads was done by somebody else that you put in place. All left for you to do is make this closing call. And I promise you, for most of them, there'll be a no. You're on the phone 2 minutes max, and you're gone. On to the next one. And the ones that are a yes might be a 10-minute call to make the appointment. This is not going to take much time to make these closing calls. You get 10 or 15 leads a week, you ain't going to have an hour in making the closing calls for all of them. Now, when you get these appointments, okay, you might have an hour in appointment, maybe even more, but that appointment's already been pre-screened because the seller's giving you the right answer. Visit 2 or 3 houses a month, get a simple 2-page agreement, sign, control that multiple $100,000 asset as soon as you walk out of that house. Then you get it to your attorney gets it closed. The higher the price you pay, the more money you make. I usually get about 10% as a non-refundable option deposit. What's worth more, 10% of a $200,000 house or 10% of a $1 million house? Is it the exact same process? Yes. Does it take the exact same amount of time? Yes. Is the exact same amount of risk? Yes. None. Then the more dollars you wallow in, the more stick to you. You want to make money, go where the money is.